Has there ever been somebody come up to you and say, hey, I got this idea, let's do this? Has that ever been something you're like, well, I mean, that's too much for even me?
Far and few between, but there have been times. Yeah. One of the things I will not partake in, and that's because, like, I mean, for people that really, really know me, know that I don't ever take my socks off, except for like a shower.
Okay.
And, you know, even in bed, I feel weird about it. Like, okay, this is where I'm trying to set you in this. Why this is not a thing.
Okay.
As a kid, I used to run around barefoot outside and things like that. Not by my own choice, but I would do that, and I remember feeling the rocks on the bottom of my feet, and like how that felt, and I hated it. I just despised it. I was like, no, like I can't touch this rock. It hurts. So I've been paranoid ever, and I wear socks all the time. Like a freak. So, where this goes into wrestling is a guy named Viking I wrestled. He's been wrestling for a few years too. He's out of Canada, and I wrestled him. We had a great match, but originally his thought was to have a barefoot thumbtack match. No,
right,
like I'm not doing that.
Right.
So we met in the middle, and he wanted to do something with it. I don't know if it's a fetish or what it is for him, but he's a good guy in general. We had a good match, like I said, but he wanted a spot where he took his boot off, and I jammed the tattoo needles in the bottom of his foot. And I mean, it got the greatest reaction in the world, but at the same sense, like I would never ever do that myself. So.
One thing I've heard, and I've said a lot when I was younger, live like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
one day you wake up and you're 43 years old like me.
Right.
And although I never did it near to the level what you did, I've done thumbtacks and I've done barbed wire and I've taken way too many shots in the head because I came up whenever the Attitude Era was, and you know everybody just took open shots to the head all the time, but nothing to the level of you. So I guess my question is, do you ever worry, or are you at all concerned about the quality of life you may have 10 or 20 years from now?
Absolutely. You know, and I think I thought of that when I originally took some time off. The reason why I took time off, my back was hurt. It was from a simple thing too. Like it was just from a miscue with a move, and it was actually me and Gory on the top rope. We did a move where he did a stomp and I did a swanton at the same time. Kind of like a Hardy's deal.
Mm-hmm.
We miscued the time, and I hit very low on my lower back, and he stomped, and it was just very chaotic. And at that very moment, I felt a huge hot pain shoot up my lower back, and I didn't know what was wrong. But I you know, we all do it. We just take some time and let it sit. You know, that was just one instance where I knew, like, I cannot physically perform to the level to which I want to, or I feel like this is inhibiting me to that point. If I ever felt that, which I have at times, and there's times where I think it's been feeling so good, I'm at a high point in wrestling right now, I feel good about it. That's my drive to sometimes be like, you know what, this pain will only be for a moment for now, and I'll feel it later, but I want to give it my all for this. And it sounds crazy. It sounds like it's like I'm going into a boxing fight or something, but it's the way I look at it. And at that time, like I said, it was just really worried about the quality of wrestling that I was giving out. And even during that time, I can remember a few shows and things like that, even local shows here, where I was not 100%. I was not feeling it.
So was your concern more the quality of the matches that you were giving, or more the quality of life you're going to have later on?
A mix of them. I was aware of it, but I think it was primarily, you know, thinking about a back injury and things like, and how much that hurt, and then having it checked out and being told like you shouldn't be doing this anymore, or you should just chill out for a little bit. Even just the thought of that, it was scary, because I'm like, man, like I feel like I didn't hit where I want to be yet. Like where I wanted to be is where I am right now. And not even in the case of deathmatch wrestling, but just being remembered, at least for what you do. Like that's all I ever cared about. At least giving care if I say shit on here.
You said fuck already. So I think
Oh, that's right there. You should fucking shit. But you know, is you know, thinking that, you know, that shit and letting that sit and resonate in there for a little bit is not where I don't want to be. It's just going to be a short run. If doing the death match is what it is, it's going to be short, and I'm well aware of that. So the quality of life, yeah, I don't want to be crippled. But
So you've been invited to participate in CZW's Tournament of Death and IWA Mid-South King of the Deathmatch tournaments.
yeah.
What did it mean to you to be invited to those and to get to participate in such high-profile deathmatch tournaments?
This was the example of kind of how I was saying earlier, where I wanted to be opposed to where I was. You know, starting out even in the school, like Shikar is very lucha based. I'm glad I learned that stuff because that stuff came in handy recently going to Mexico. But you know, using that in what I've learned now, and then using that in some of my death matches and things like that, that really you know, projected me really well as far as doing different things and doing things that guys weren't doing. So I think that helped land some of these spots and land some of these things, because there's a lot of guys that try to do this stuff, and I always wanted that. I wanted to be at CZW. I wanted to be at Tournament of Death. I did security for those shows for years, and it was like, okay, well, here I'm sitting there, I got that itch. I'm like, man, one day I'm going to be there at CZW and I'm going to be in Tournament of Death. Hopefully I'll get to wrestle that guy and that guy. And you would think, and you're like, ah, man, they'll probably be retired by the time I get involved in all this shit, you know. But I said that about guys that were on TV when I was 5.
Sure.
And lo and behold, there they are in front of my face at some independent show. But that was the goal. So having that happen, once again, another word I think I'll use a lot is organically, naturally happening, becoming that because they had the interest. They wanted me. I didn't go to them and beg for a booking. I didn't put out, you know, I really want to be there, blah, blah, blah. I let it be what it was. I let the buzz, I let the workers that have worked with me, I had to thank them for more than anything. If I had not gotten the opportunity to wrestle some of those guys that went back and they said, oh, TOD's coming up, who we thinking about? And some of those guys that I wrestled, you know, at BOW or wherever else, were like, dude, bring in this guy, you know, G-River, bring in G-River. DJ knew who I was. DJ books Tournament of Death. Next thing you know, I'm being asked to be a part of Tournament of Death. Hey, you couldn't ruin my day.
I'm sure.
There's no way.
You brought it up. Let's talk about it.
Sure.
You recently went to Mexico.
Yeah.
What was your experience like there?
Wow, man. Talk about things you just never see yourself doing. I mean, these are things that you're just like, you can sit down and say, like, I'll wrestle, and I'll wrestle for years, but I'll never go to, like, Mexico or overseas or anything. I didn't even have a passport for years and years until I'm getting opportunities to go out of the state. I'm like, wow. But let me say that the experience was in the quality of me being there and the quality of them, like the wrestling, the quality of them taking care of us. We went to 4 different cities and we traveled in a bus together. It was the first time I've ever had that experience. We traveled in a bus from city to city. These shows started and ended fast. Like, they started, and next thing you know, we were like, oh, main event, let's go out. And they got it. They tore it down. We all got on the bus. They made me feel like part of their family. Seeing their culture, eating their food was awesome. It did mess up my stomach one day, and that was pretty bad. I had the shits really bad. Other than that, it was an amazing learning experience, and also something where you see how hard those guys work, and you start to have respect for the fact that you know, like, it's hard for them to come here. Work visas, that sort of thing. I had no idea. I never really put myself in that shoes, and knowing and seeing some of those guys that I know they're amazing talents and that they can't do anything, about it because it all comes down to the almighty dollar, for everyone. But a lot of them are working towards that. What's a lot to us to get a visa or to get a passport is phenomenal. Phenomenal amount to them, and it's hard. But the overall experience was just amazing in the sense of never picturing yourself. And we did a lot of wrestling, just straight wrestling. They didn't need to have all that death, and they loved it. They loved every little bit, and even if we gave them a little bit, just at the end.
In my research, I saw that you had wrestled Sabu.
Right.
Now, Sabu is a guy that, of course, is an absolute legend in the world of hardcore wrestling. What was that like for you?
Let's just put yourself in the ring, and you think of a guy that you idolized growing up. This is a guy that you watched religiously, and you said to yourself, man, wouldn't it be cool to wrestle Sabu one day? But you're like, no way, it's never gonna happen. Like I said before, you think like, no, it's not possible. But imagine standing in the ring, and it's quiet, and then all of a sudden, Sabu's music hits, boom, boom, and that alone, that was the moment. That was the holy shit. This is happening. Like, this is real life. I'm getting ready to wrestle Sabu in the main event for a show. And another thing that was about it that wasn't the physical match itself was that a promoter looked at me and said, we're bringing in Sabu. Who is somebody that he could work with, that will have a good match with, and that's something we want to see. Because you hear about it, guys that pay their way into shit. Why would you want that? Why would you ever want that experience out of your career? Wouldn't you rather say, I was put in that position because I either earned it.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else visualized you being in that position because they liked what you were presenting to their product. Like, that to me is a bigger meaning than that for that match, and specifically.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge deal for me. And the fact that Sabu gave me a good match. And to see him excited about it was the even weirder part.
So that has to be a bucket list guy. Is there anybody else on that bucket list that you'd still like to get to work with, or already have that was on your bucket list?
I can imagine it being high from guys that are not involved anymore, guys that recently passed away. I could sit and talk about that for probably forever, but I mean, like Hayabusa, that was one guy. I loved Hayabusa. There was a hybrid guy that I was just really into those guys. The Hardys, things like that. I've always been into those guys, so any of those guys in any magnitude would have been awesome.
Okay, so here comes the fun part. I want you to take a second. Think about everybody that hates you. Mm-hmm. The anonymous trolls, the terrible people. What are the things that they would say about you?